Before a single dollar leaves your hand, a story has already begun inside your mind. A story shaped by childhood memories, social pressure, fear of missing out, past wounds, and unexamined habits. Most people believe they spend money logically, but the truth is stark. We spend emotionally, then justify rationally. And until you understand the emotional engine beneath your spending, you will always feel like money slips through your fingers faster than you can earn it. Every choice you make with money starts far before you touch your wallet. Maybe you grew up in a household where money was scarce, and each purchase felt dangerous, a risk, a gamble, a sacrifice. Or perhaps you were raised in abundance, but no one taught you the weight of a dollar. So spending became a way to feel alive, confident, or validated. These early experiences write the code for how you behave financially as an adult. If you ever wondered why you buy things you don't need, why you chase sales, why you fear checking your bank balance, or why you can't stop rewarding yourself even when your finances are tight, the answer lies here. Your money habits are emotional memories dressed as logic. Marketing firms know this. Social media algorithms know this. Retail companies know this. They target your fear, ego, insecurity, excitement, and loneliness. They don't sell you products, they sell you a feeling of status, belonging, convenience, competence, beauty, or relief. And you buy not because you want the object, but because your brain craves the emotion attached to it. This is why understanding the psychology of spending is the first step toward building a richer life. Not richer in possessions, but in control, peace, and purpose. When you finally see how your choices are shaped not by income, but by inner patterns, you reclaim your financial power. Money stops being something that happens to you. It becomes something you direct, and that is where freedom begins. Most people believe their financial problems would disappear if they simply earned more, but that belief is one of the most expensive illusions a person can carry. Income can amplify your lifestyle, but it cannot correct the habits, fears, impulses, and blind spots that created financial stress in the first place. That's why people who finally make more money often find themselves repeating the same cycles: overspending, overcommitting, undersaving, and wondering why life still feels heavy. The truth is simple. More money doesn't make you better with money. It makes you more of who you already are. If you are undisciplined with a small salary, you will be undisciplined with a big one. If you make emotional decisions with a little, you will make emotional decisions with a lot. If you avoid responsibility when you earn modestly, you will avoid responsibility even after you earn generously. High income does not replace financial wisdom, it magnifies financial behavior. This is why lottery winners go broke, why many high earners feel constantly stressed, and why people with rising salaries still search for the next pay raise as if it's a life raft. They think their struggle is caused by a lack of money, when in reality, it's caused by a lack of structure. Money is not a rescue plan. It is a tool that rewards clarity, punishes chaos, and quietly mirrors the quality of your decisions. Learning to use this tool wisely is what separates those who feel wealthy from those who constantly chase wealth yet never reach it. Financial comfort doesn't come from earning more, it comes from aligning your behavior with the outcomes you want. You cannot outrun poor habits with higher income, just as you cannot outrun poor health with better medicine. If you spend without intention, your expenses will grow to meet or exceed your income. If you chase lifestyle upgrades instead of stability, you will always feel behind, no matter how much you earn. If you let emotions dictate your purchases, money will slip through your fingers faster than it enters your account. And if you ignore where your money goes, you will misjudge how much you truly need. Wealthy individuals understand this deeply. They don't wait for the right income level to behave like financially intelligent people. They build systems before success arrives. They set boundaries before temptation appears. They create rules that protect their future from their impulses. And most importantly, they cultivate habits that make wealth a natural outcome, not a lucky accident. When you learn to make good decisions with the money you have, regardless of the amount you create, a foundation that can support any level of income that comes next. But if you refuse to change your mindset, your habits, and your spending philosophy, then no income increase will ever be enough. Money multiplies discipline, but it also multiplies disorder, and your financial life will only improve the moment you choose clarity over comfort, intention over impulse, and wisdom over wishful thinking. Because wealth begins not when you earn more, but when you decide to do more with what you already have. Some people spend money as if it were proof that they are living, but life has nothing to do with the number of things you purchase. Real living is measured in depth, not in items, in meaning, not in receipts. Yet most people fall into the trap of believing that happiness and lifestyle are earned through consumption, new gadgets, new trends, new upgrades, new escapes until spending becomes a substitute for fulfillment. This misunderstanding creates an emotional cycle where buying becomes a way to feel alive for a moment, only to feel emptier afterward. What many don't realize is that spending and living are fundamentally different. Spending is a transaction. Living is an experience. Spending is external. Living is internal. Spending drains resources. Living enriches your life. And when you can finally see this difference, your financial choices become clearer, calmer, and more aligned with the life you actually want. People who confuse spending with living are often those who feel most dissatisfied because they treat money as a tool to temporarily mask a deeper lack of purpose, connection, or direction. But people who understand the distinction between the two use money intentionally not to impress others, but to enhance the quality of their days, not to fill a void, but to magnify the parts of life they truly value. When your money begins to support your life instead of pretending to be your life, everything changes. True living happens in the moments money cannot buy: peace, health, time, freedom, relationships, clarity, and purpose. Money enhances these things, but it cannot replace them. The problem is that many people chase the feeling of "I am living well" through purchases because they've never been taught how to build a meaningful life without relying on spending. They upgrade their wardrobe instead of upgrading their habits. They upgrade their devices instead of upgrading their skills. They upgrade their weekends instead of upgrading their goals. As a result, their lifestyle becomes expensive, but their life remains empty. The wealthy think differently. They understand that life quality comes from alignment, spending on what adds joy, eliminating what drains energy, and designing a lifestyle that feels rich, even without unnecessary extravagance. They don't spend to escape their life. They spend to enhance the life they already enjoy. And the irony is that when you learn to live with intention, you naturally spend less on things that don't matter and more on things that do. You begin choosing experiences over status, growth over indulgence, substance over appearance. You realize that the richest version of you is not the one who buys the most, but the one who needs the least to feel fulfilled. When you stop confusing spending with living, you stop chasing a life that looks good and start building a life that feels good. And that shift, quiet, powerful, intentional, is where true wealth begins. Not all spending is created equal. Some purchases drain your future, while others expand it. Some give you a moment of pleasure, while others reshape the direction of your life. The people who feel genuinely wealthy, regardless of their income level, are those who understand that money has 4 essential uses and that learning to prioritize them is the difference between a life that looks rich and a life that feels rich. The first is spending on health, the foundation of every form of wealth you will ever build. Without energy, clarity, or physical strength, even the most ambitious dreams collapse. Money spent on nutritious food, fitness, rest, and preventive care isn't an expense. It is insurance on your future, a guarantee that you will be capable enough to enjoy the rewards you work for. The second is spending on skills, because your mind is the only asset that appreciates forever. Every dollar invested in learning, courses, books, mentors, or any tool that sharpens your abilities becomes a gateway to opportunities far more valuable than the cost itself. Skills compound. And the people who become irreplaceable are those who invest in becoming better than who they were yesterday. These two categories, health and skills, don't just create a richer life, they create a richer you. Time is the only currency in life that becomes more valuable as it disappears. And yet most people spend it carelessly because they believe money is the more fragile resource. But the wealthy understand the opposite. Money can be regained, time cannot. That is why one of the most powerful forms of spending is using money to buy back your time. Whether it's outsourcing tasks that drain your energy, paying for services that simplify your day, choosing convenience to free your schedule, or eliminating responsibilities that pull you away from what matters, buying time is not a luxury, it is a strategy. Every minute you reclaim becomes space for growth, rest, creativity, relationships, reflection, and health, the pillars of a well-lived life. People who never learn this spend their entire existence trading irreplaceable time for replaceable dollars, never realizing that the real goal of earning money is to eventually stop trading life for income. When you begin to see time as your most precious asset, you naturally make spending decisions that honor your future instead of feeding your exhaustion. If time is the most valuable currency, then experiences are the most valuable return on investment. Unlike objects, which fade, break, or lose meaning, experiences increase in emotional value as years pass. A trip that opened your worldview, a meaningful dinner with someone you love, a moment of challenge that made you stronger, an event that inspired new ambition, these are the purchases that shape who you become. Experiences enrich your memory, expand your identity, and deepen your appreciation of life. They remind you that being alive is not about accumulation but connection. People often confuse status with joy, but joy comes from experiences that make you feel present, human, alive. That's why the most fulfilled individuals spend more on what they can feel rather than what they can flaunt. And the beautiful truth is, when your money flows into health, skills, time, and experiences, your life becomes richer in every direction. You spend less trying to impress others and more creating a life that impresses you. These 4 types of spending transform money from something you chase into something that elevates your existence. Because wealth is not built by what you accumulate, but by what you choose to value, and these 4 choices create a life where richness is felt long before it is measured. Impulse spending is one of the quietest and most expensive habits a person can have, not because each purchase is large, but because each one bypasses intention. Every time you buy something out of impulse, out of stress, boredom, loneliness, excitement, or momentary desire, you hand your future over to a feeling that disappears faster than the receipt fades. Impulse spending is not just a financial issue, it is an emotional response disguised as a decision. Your brain seeks dopamine, your heart seeks comfort, and your habits seek repetition. Retailers understand this better than anyone. Entire industries are built on your moments of weakness. Flash sales, countdown timers, free shipping if you buy now, notifications designed to trigger urgency, marketing written to exploit your insecurities. You are not buying a product, you are buying relief, stimulation, or escape. But relief lasts minutes, while the cost lasts months. And the most dangerous part is that impulse spending feels harmless in the beginning. A cheap accessory here, a small subscription there, a late-night online order that seemed fun at the time. Yet when multiplied over weeks and months, these tiny decisions quietly erode the financial ground beneath your feet. People don't go broke from one big mistake, they go broke from 1,000 unnoticed impulses that steal their future in small, consistent doses. The true cost of impulse spending is not the money you lose, but the opportunities you sacrifice. Every impulsive purchase takes resources away from something far more meaningful. Your savings, your investments, your stability, your dreams, your freedom. The money you spend without thinking is the same money you later wish you had for something important. And over time, this gap between what you wanted in the moment and what you want in life becomes painfully clear. Wealthy thinkers understand this deeply. They aren't immune to temptation. They are simply trained to pause. They recognize that buying is an emotion, not a need. They build systems to protect themselves from their own impulses, waiting 24 hours before a purchase, unsubscribing from marketing emails, reviewing expenses weekly, and setting spending boundaries before temptation arises. They know that discipline isn't about restriction, it's about preserving the life they are building. When you learn to slow your impulses, you regain control over your money and, more importantly, over. Intentional spending is the quiet superpower that separates people who feel in control of their money from those who constantly feel like they are chasing it. It is not about restricting yourself, forcing discipline, or cutting out everything that brings joy. It is about shifting from unconscious reaction to conscious choice. Most people spend without thinking because their financial habits run on autopilot. Emotions kick in, impulses take over, and money leaves before awareness arrives. Intentional spending interrupts that cycle. It requires you to pause, ask yourself what truly matters, and decide whether a purchase supports the life you want to build or distracts you from it. When spending becomes intentional, every dollar starts working for you instead of disappearing from you. You stop buying out of habit, boredom, comparison, or insecurity. You begin spending with clarity, direction, and purpose. And suddenly, money becomes a tool that expands your life rather than a force that controls it. This shift is subtle, but it changes everything. Your stress lowers, your savings grow, and your relationship with money transforms from chaos into confidence. Because the richest people are not the ones who make the most, they are the ones who make choices aligned with what matters most. Intentional spending doesn't require complex budgeting or spreadsheets filled with rules. It requires awareness of what brings genuine value to your life. It asks you to choose purchases that reflect your priorities instead of your impulses. Before buying anything, intentional spenders ask simple but powerful questions. Does this make my life better or just momentarily easier? Is this purchase aligned with my goals or my mood? Will this matter next month, or is it only meaningful right now? These questions shift your mind from emotional reaction to strategic consideration. The more often you ask them, the more naturally they guide your decisions. Over time, this habit rewires your financial behavior, reduces regret, and increases satisfaction. You stop chasing temporary highs and start investing in long-term fulfillment. And here lies the magic. Intentional spending doesn't feel restrictive. It feels liberating. It frees you from the pressure to keep up, from the guilt of overspending, and from the confusion of not knowing where your money went. It turns your financial life into something you actively shape rather than something that happens to you. When your spending aligns with your values, your money becomes an expression of who you are, not a response to what the world expects. And in that alignment, real wealth begins to take root not just in your bank account, but in your daily life, your peace of mind, and your sense of purpose. Every dollar you spend has a return not in profit, but in joy. Yet most people never measure this return. They know the price of everything and the value of nothing. They chase discounts, deals, and trends, but rarely stop to ask whether the purchase will actually enrich their life. This is where the joy-to-dollar ratio becomes one of the most powerful financial concepts you can adopt. It asks a simple but transformative question. How much happiness does this bring me for every dollar I spend? When you begin evaluating your choices through this lens, you immediately see that some cheap purchases are incredibly expensive emotionally, while some expensive purchases are priceless in their long-term joy. You realize that a low-cost impulse buy can bring zero satisfaction, while an investment in health, education, a meaningful experience, or a tool that simplifies your life can deliver joy far beyond its price tag. Wealth isn't built by buying the cheapest option. It's built by buying the option that gives you the highest return in well-being. Understanding this ratio helps you break free from the trap of chasing more and instead focus on choosing better. It teaches you to stop seeking excitement in things that fade and start seeking fulfillment in things that last. The joy to dollar ratio reveals another truth. Happiness doesn't come from spending more. It comes from spending consciously. When you stop buying out of habit or comparison, your money flows toward what genuinely elevates your life. You start noticing which purchases consistently disappoint you and which consistently bring lasting satisfaction. You become aware of the difference between emotional cravings and meaningful value. You learn that some of your most joyful investments may not be glamorous fresh groceries, a comfortable mattress, a quiet workspace, a course that unlocks new skills, yet they improve your life every single day. And you also learn that some of your worst purchases may be the ones you bought to impress others or fill an empty feeling inside you. The wealthy instinctively prioritize high joy, high value spending because they understand that money is too precious to waste on forgettable moments. They treat each dollar as a vote for the life they want to live. When you adopt this mindset, your financial choices become clearer, your regrets decrease, and your life begins to feel fuller, not because you spend more, but because you spend smarter. The joy to dollar ratio becomes a compass that guides your spending toward meaning, not noise. And when your purchases consistently bring you joy that exceeds their cost, you don't just become financially wiser, you become emotionally richer. Most people make financial decisions by looking at the price tag, but the wealthy measure cost in a completely different currency: time. The true expense of anything is not the amount you pay, but the hours of your life you trade to afford it. When you begin calculating purchases in terms of time rather than dollars, everything shifts. Your awareness sharpens, your priorities reorder, and your spending becomes more aligned with the life you want instead of the lifestyle the world pressures you to chase. You start to realize that a cheap purchase can be incredibly expensive if it steals your time through maintenance, stress, obligations, or regret. You notice that working overtime for things you don't need costs you far more than the money you earn. It costs you moments with your family, your health, your peace, your creativity, your rest. People who feel perpetually busy but never fulfilled are often those who unconsciously trade priceless hours for possessions that add little meaning to their lives. Time is the only asset you can never replenish. Money regenerates, energy recovers, skills compound, but time only moves in one direction. This is why wealthy thinkers don't obsess over having more. They obsess over having time to enjoy what they already have. They use money to protect their time, not sacrifice time to chase more money. When you understand this distinction, your entire relationship with spending transforms from automatic consumption to intentional preservation of your life's most sacred resource. The price of things loses power when you begin asking a deeper question: how much of my life am I exchanging for this? Suddenly, you start declining purchases, not because they're too expensive, but because they're not worth the hours of living they cost you. You stop chasing the newest trends when you realize the opportunity cost of your time is too high. You stop wasting money on things that don't matter because you recognize that every unnecessary purchase steals from something that truly does. The wealthy are not obsessed with frugality, they are obsessed with freedom. They buy tools, services, and solutions that give them time back instead of consuming time endlessly. They outsource tasks, not out of laziness, but out of respect for their finite energy. They prioritize convenience, not because they are careless with money, but because they are careful with their hours. The poor mindset asks, how much does this cost? The rich mindset asks, how much of my life does this cost? This single shift in thinking elevates your financial decisions from superficial to strategic, from temporary pleasure to long-term fulfillment. Because when you finally understand that time, not money, is your real wealth, you start building a life you can actually live, not just a lifestyle you can temporarily afford. And in that realization lies the ultimate truth. You become richer the moment your decisions stop costing you your life. One of the most expensive habits a person can carry is the need to prove their worth through what they purchase. Buying for validation is not financial behavior, it is emotional compensation. It begins quietly. A new outfit because you want to feel impressive. A trendy gadget because you fear falling behind. A luxury item because you want to be seen as successful, a dinner at a place you can't afford because you're afraid of looking less than among friends. Over time, these small decisions build a lifestyle that looks polished on the outside but feels hollow on the inside. The truth is that buying for validation is never about the thing you're purchasing. It's about the feeling you hope it gives you. You're not buying shoes, you're buying confidence. You're not buying a phone, you're buying belonging. You're not buying a bag, you're buying approval. But the problem with validation is that it evaporates quickly, leaving behind only the financial consequences. And the more you chase external approval, the more you lose the internal stability required to build real wealth. Wealthy thinkers understand this deeply. They don't use money to impress, they use it to improve. They know that validation from others is temporary, but validation that comes from discipline, clarity, and self-respect lasts a lifetime. When you stop seeking approval through spending, you begin spending for yourself, not for the world's applause. The path to breaking validation-based spending begins with one simple but uncomfortable truth. Your purchases should reflect your identity, not your insecurities. When you buy to impress others, you give away control of your financial life to people who don't pay your bills and won't be there when consequences arrive. You let strangers, trends, and societal expectations dictate how you use your most powerful resource. To escape this trap, you must shift from external referencing to internal alignment. Wealthy individuals make purchases based on value, purpose, and intention. They ask questions most people avoid. Do I want this? Or do I want to be perceived a certain way? Am I buying this because it improves my life, or because it improves my image? Would I still want this if no one could see it? These questions strip away illusions and reveal your real motivations. And as your awareness sharpens, something beautiful happens. Your desire for validation weakens. You start realizing that people are too busy with their own insecurities to notice yours. You begin valuing comfort over comparison, authenticity over performance, simplicity over status. Most importantly, you discover that confidence bought is fragile, but confidence built is unbreakable. When you stop buying to feel worthy, you finally learn to feel worthy without buying. And that shift, that quiet inner transformation, is what allows wealth to stop being a costume and start being a reality. Most people try to earn enough money to afford the life they think they want, but the wealthy do something entirely different. They design a life that aligns with who they are, what they value, and what they can sustain without stress. Designing a life you can afford to love is not about shrinking your dreams. It is about structuring your reality so that joy and financial peace can coexist. A life that constantly demands more money than you have is not a life, it is a trap. And countless people fall into this trap when they build lifestyles based on comparison, impulse, or societal expectations rather than intention. They chase symbols of success instead of the substance of happiness. They upgrade everything except the things that genuinely matter: health, relationships, time, purpose, stability. A life designed without clarity becomes expensive and exhausting, but a life designed with intention becomes energizing and sustainable. You begin with simple questions. What makes me feel alive? What adds meaning to my days? What drains to me despite looking impressive? What do I actually need to live well? These questions are not about sacrifice. They are about alignment. And alignment saves money, protects peace, and creates a lifestyle that feels effortlessly yours. Wealthy thinkers don't build a life that looks good. They build a life that feels good. And the moment you adopt this mindset, you begin replacing pressure with purpose. Designing a life you can afford to love means eliminating the costs, both financial and emotional, of pretending. It means letting go of lifestyles rooted in performance and stepping into lifestyles rooted in authenticity. A fulfilling life is not created by buying more things. It is created by choosing better things. It is the art of building routines that support your well-being, relationships that uplift you, habits that strengthen you, and spaces that calm you. It is realizing that the true luxury is waking up without financial anxiety, being able to take time off without panic, choosing purchases without guilt, and saying no without fear. When you strip away the noise, you discover that the cost of maintaining an artificially perfect lifestyle is far higher than the cost of designing a genuinely joyful one. Wealthy individuals understand this intuitively. They spend money to build systems that reduce stress and increase stability. They choose environments that match their goals. They curate lifestyles that reflect who they want to become, not what others expect them to display. And the irony is simple. When you design a life you can afford to love, you often end up spending less and living more. Your happiness no longer depends on income spikes or impulsive purchases. It comes from clarity, ownership, and being at peace with the life you're actively creating. That is real wealth. A life customized for your joy, not shaped by the world's noise. A life that feels good not just today, but sustainable for decades. And that is the kind of life worth designing. Most people spend money without ever questioning the beliefs guiding their decisions. They follow habits they never chose, adopt values they never examined, and obey expectations they never agreed to. As a result, their financial life feels chaotic, inconsistent, or stressful, not because they earn too little, but because they lack a personal spending philosophy. A spending philosophy is a simple but powerful framework that defines how you choose to use your money and why. It turns spending from a reaction into a reflection of your identity. Instead of being pulled around by trends, impulses, and social pressure, you make choices rooted in clarity, purpose, and self-awareness. Wealthy thinkers have philosophies that act like a compass. They know what matters, what doesn't, what deserves investment, and what deserves to be ignored. Without such a compass, even high earners feel lost. But when you build a personal philosophy, you stop spending to escape your life and start spending to enhance it. You begin to understand that every dollar expresses your priorities, whether you are conscious of that or not. And when your money aligns with your values, spending becomes peaceful instead of stressful, empowering instead of draining. A powerful spending philosophy is built from 3 questions. What do I value? What do I refuse to waste money on? What future am I investing in each time I spend? When you answer these questions honestly, your financial life reshapes itself. You stop buying things that don't match your identity or goals. You stop feeling guilty about investing in what matters because you know the purpose behind it. You build guardrails that protect you from emotional spending because your decisions are anchored to principle, not impulse. Wealthy individuals apply this instinctively. They know what adds meaning to their life and what only adds noise. They are generous where it matters, disciplined where it counts, and unapologetic about prioritizing long-term fulfillment over short-term image. This clarity is what allows them to grow wealth consistently, not through luck, but through alignment. When you build your own spending philosophy, you no longer ask, "Can I afford this?" but instead, "Does this reflect who I am and who I want to become?" And that shift transforms your financial life into something coherent, intentional, and deeply personal. Your money becomes a tool that builds your identity, protects your peace, and shapes your future. Because at its core, a spending philosophy is not about restriction, it is about liberation. It frees you from the world's expectations so you can finally live by your own. For generations, people have argued whether money buys happiness, yet the real answer is neither simple nor extreme. Science shows that money can increase happiness, but only up to the point where it removes stress, uncertainty, and the daily fear of not having enough. Beyond that threshold, its power shifts. It stops being a source of happiness and begins acting as an amplifier for whatever already exists in your life. If you are fulfilled, money enhances it. If you are stressed or empty, money intensifies that too. Research consistently reveals that people experience the greatest emotional lift, not from wealth itself, but from what money allows: safety, autonomy, time, health, and meaningful experiences. Ironically, many people chase the numbers, but ignore the outcomes that create real joy. They work endlessly, thinking more income will free them, yet they trade away the very things that lead to happiness: sleep, relationships, presence, peace. Happiness is not born from income, it is born from stability and control. And money, wisely used, is simply the bridge to reaching those states. The wealthy understand this intuitively. They do not pursue money for emotional highs, they pursue it for options. Because options, not possessions, are what create lasting happiness. When you can say no without fear, when you can take a break without panic, when you can choose your days instead of reacting to them, you experience a level of happiness no luxury purchase can replicate. What science makes undeniably clear is that happiness is shaped far more by how you use your money than by how much you have. People who spend on experiences rather than objects report higher satisfaction. People who use money to buy time, outsourcing stress, reducing friction, simplifying life report higher well-being. People who invest in relationships, generosity, health, learning, and stability consistently score higher in long-term happiness than those who invest in status symbols or momentary thrills. Even small acts of intentional generosity activate brain circuits related to meaning and fulfillment, proving that wealth grows richer when shared. Yet the majority of people fall into the trap of chasing the wrong rewards, believing that external upgrades will fix internal emptiness. They buy more but feel less. They upgrade everything except the qualities that lead to genuine joy. The truth is that happiness is not an outcome of wealth. It is a skill that money can support but not replace. When you spend in ways that align with your values, strengthen your relationships, improve your health, increase your freedom, and create memories that enrich your identity, your happiness grows in proportion to your choices, not your income. And that is the scientific secret most people overlook. Money used without intention increases stress. But money used with intention increases life. Happiness isn't purchased, it is constructed. And money, when guided by clarity, becomes one of the most powerful tools in building the life you truly desire. Experiences are the only purchases that grow more valuable with time. While objects fade, break, or lose their novelty, experiences become richer every time you remember them. Yet in a world obsessed with things, many people overlook the profound return that meaningful moments provide. Investing in experiences isn't about traveling the world or spending lavishly. It's about choosing moments that expand your identity, deepen your relationships, and create emotional memories that anchor you through life. A single meaningful experience can shift your perspective more than years of routine. A conversation with someone you admire, a trip that challenges your worldview, a class that awakens a hidden passion, or a shared moment with someone you love. These are the investments that shape who you become. People who prioritize experiences don't do so because they are careless with money. They do it because they understand the psychology of fulfillment. Happiness research shows the same pattern repeatedly. Experiences increase joy, build gratitude, and strengthen emotional resilience far more effectively than possessions. Objects clutter your home. Experiences enrich your life. Objects depreciate. Memories appreciate. And the most financially intelligent people are often those who understand that the real measure of wealth is not what you own, but what you live. The key is choosing experiences that align with your values and elevate your personal growth. Not every experience is worth investing in. Some drain you emotionally or financially, while others leave you unchanged. But the right experiences act as catalysts. They open new doors in your thinking, help you meet people who expand your world, and push you into environments that build confidence and courage. Experiences that challenge you, learning a new skill, attending a meaningful workshop, joining a retreat, or exploring a new culture, leave a deeper imprint because they reshape your identity. Experiences that connect you, sharing meals with loved ones, celebrating milestones, building traditions, strengthen your emotional wealth. Experiences that restore you, quiet mornings, nature escapes, Moments of stillness protect your mental health and clarity. Wealthy thinkers invest in these because they know experiences influence everything that matters: mindset, relationships, gratitude, ambition, perspective. And here lies the paradox. The more you invest in experiences that nourish your soul, the less you feel the need to prove yourself through material things. Your life becomes richer not because you accumulate more, but because you feel more. And long after the details fade, the meaning remains. That is the kind of return no financial market can replicate. Most people believe managing money requires complicated budgets, financial apps, and rigid rules. But the truth is far simpler. Wealth grows from systems, not stress. A simple, sustainable spending system, one you can follow for years without feeling restricted, is far more powerful than the most sophisticated plan you abandon after a month. The wealthy understand this deeply. They don't aim for perfection, they aim for consistency. They create systems that protect their future automatically and guide their spending effortlessly. A simple system has 3 goals. Make sure you always know where your money is going. Ensure your financial future is funded before your impulses are. And give you the freedom to enjoy your money without guilt. Without a system, your finances drift, expenses multiply, savings shrink, and stress grows quietly in the background. But with a system, your money starts flowing toward your values and long-term stability, not toward temporary temptations. The key is to automate the important and simplify the rest. When your financial life becomes structured rather than improvised, wealth becomes predictable rather than accidental. A lifetime spending system can be built around 3 simple flows: security, growth, and joy. Security comes first because financial peace is the foundation of every good decision you will ever make. This includes savings, emergency funds, essential bills, and anything that protects your stability. Growth comes next. Investments in your future, such as retirement accounts, index funds, skills training, and meaningful opportunities that expand your earning potential. Joy comes last, not because it is least important, but because it is most enjoyable when it is guilt-free. This includes travel, hobbies, entertainment, and the things that make life feel vibrant. When you divide your money into these 3 flows, you create a balanced life, protected enough to feel safe, ambitious enough to keep rising, and joyful enough to love the life you're building. Wealthy thinkers follow this structure intuitively. They treat security as non-negotiable, growth as essential, and joy as a reward, not an escape. And the beauty of this system is that it works at any income level. You don't need to be rich to start. You become rich by starting. Over time, the system compounds. Security grows into confidence. Growth turns into opportunity. Joy turns into fulfillment. And your financial life becomes something steady, intentional, and empowering, a reflection of not just how you manage money, but who you are becoming. Money is more than currency, numbers, or transactions. It is energy. It responds to the intention behind your actions, the emotions behind your decisions, and the level of clarity within your life. When your relationship with money is rooted in fear, scarcity, or guilt, money becomes something that slips away, feels heavy, or creates anxiety, no matter how much you earn. But when your relationship is rooted in respect, order, and purpose, money flows with ease, stability, and a sense of alignment. The energy of money mirrors the energy of the person managing it. Chaotic habits create chaotic finances. Confused priorities create confused spending. Clear goals create clear financial movement. Money is attracted to certainty and repelled by confusion. This is why people who live with intention often feel wealthier than people who earn. Far more because their internal energy supports their financial flow instead of sabotaging it. When you treat money with dignity, attention, and direction, it becomes a partner, not a problem. But if you neglect it, ignore it, or misuse it to soothe emotions, it becomes a source of stress. The real financial transformation begins when you understand that your inner state shapes your outer wealth. The energy of money becomes most powerful when you start using it with awareness. Every dollar you spend carries emotion, stress, joy, fear, pride, guilt, or confidence. And money spent with fear rarely returns, while money spent with intention grows in value far beyond its price. Wealthy thinkers do not chase money, they channel it. They direct their financial energy toward expansion rather than escape, toward building rather than soothing, toward their future rather than their impulses. They understand that money flows where meaning is present. This is why investments in health, learning, relationships, and purposeful experiences create a richer life. These choices elevate the quality of your energy, and money amplifies that elevation. The more aligned you are internally, the more aligned your finances become externally. When you treat money as energy, you stop seeing it as something to hoard or fear. You begin to view it as a tool that responds to clarity, discipline, and intention. You become more careful about what you allow your money to support because you realize every purchase is a vote for the person you are becoming. Over time, this awareness shapes a powerful truth. Wealth is not something you pursue, it is something you match. When the energy of your habits, mindset, and purpose rises to the level of abundance, money naturally follows. Most people are conditioned from childhood to be consumers, to buy, acquire, upgrade, and chase the next thing that promises satisfaction. Consumption is the default setting of society. It keeps you busy, distracted, emotionally dependent, and financially fragile. But creators operate from an entirely different mindset. They don't ask, "What can I buy?" They ask, "What can I build?" They don't wait for opportunities. They create opportunities. They don't use money to escape discomfort. They use discomfort to innovate. The difference between a consumer and a creator is not intelligence, privilege, or luck. It's perspective. Consumers measure life by what they acquire. Creators measure life by what they contribute. Consumers chase dopamine. Creators chase direction. Consumers feed their impulses. Creators feed their potential. This shift in thinking is the foundation of wealth. Every wealthy individual, every entrepreneur, every leader, every visionary shares one common trait. They stopped thinking like consumers long before they became successful. They stopped letting the world dictate their desires and started designing the world they wanted to live in. When your mind shifts from consuming value to creating value, you no longer depend on income, you generate it. You no longer chase money. Money begins chasing you. This is the mental transformation that turns ambition into independence. Thinking like a creator requires you to question your habits, challenge your desires, and rise above the noise that tells you to buy your identity instead of building it. You must learn to redirect your energy from reacting to the world toward shaping it. Consumers scroll, creators study. Consumers complain, creators construct. Consumers search for entertainment, creators search for insight. Every moment you reclaim from consumption becomes fuel for growth, innovation, and opportunity. And the beauty is that you don't need to start a business to think like a creator. You only need to start thinking in terms of value. Value for yourself, value for others, value for your future. When you learn a skill, you create value. When you solve a problem, you create value. When you share an idea, mentor someone, refine a craft, or improve a system, you create value. Over time, your value compounds. Your confidence expands. Your earning potential multiplies. You begin moving through life with purpose instead of passivity. Wealthy thinkers understand that the marketplace doesn't reward people for what they consume, it rewards people for what they create. And the moment you decide to become a creator of solutions, ideas, systems, experiences, or contributions, you step into the path of financial and personal freedom. Because consumption might bring comfort, but creation brings power. And that power is the birthplace of real wealth. Discipline is the most powerful form of wealth you can build because it multiplies every other asset in your life. Skills are useless without discipline. Opportunities die without discipline. Dreams collapse without discipline. And money without discipline burns faster than it's earned. Most people believe motivation is what drives success, but motivation is volatile. It rises and falls with mood, weather, and circumstance. Discipline is the opposite. Discipline is stable, reliable, unemotional. It carries you forward even on the days you feel uninspired or overwhelmed. Wealthy thinkers understand that it is not the intensity of their efforts, but the consistency of their habits that creates lasting results. They don't rely on willpower, they rely on structure. They design routines that eliminate guesswork, reduce decision fatigue, and protect their future from their impulses. And because discipline compounds quietly, its rewards grow exponentially. One good decision today makes tomorrow easier. One kept promise to yourself strengthens your identity. One disciplined habit practiced daily becomes a foundation that no setback can break. Discipline is the engine of every long-term success story, and without it, even the smartest strategies stay trapped in theory. What makes discipline so valuable is that it is entirely within your control. You don't need more money, better luck, or perfect timing to become disciplined. You only need commitment to a version of yourself that is stronger than your excuses. Discipline begins with small acts. Waking up when you said you would, tracking your expenses even when you don't feel like it, saying no to purchases that contradict your goals, choosing progress over pleasure just once more than you choose comfort. Each time you follow through, you build trust in yourself, and that trust becomes momentum. People who lack discipline often believe they lack ability, but the truth is they lack systems. Wealthy individuals remove friction from their lives. They automate what matters. They avoid environments that trigger bad choices. They design structures that make the right decision the easiest one. And because they protect their discipline protects them. In money, discipline is the difference between wishing for freedom and building it. It is the invisible investment that pays you every day, in confidence, in opportunity, in stability, and in self-respect. When you realize that discipline is not a punishment, but a path to independence, you stop resisting it. You start embracing it. And the moment you choose discipline, you choose a future where your life is shaped by intention, not impulses, not circumstances, not fear, just clarity, consistency, and the quiet certainty that you are becoming someone unstoppable. Failure is not the opposite of success, it is the infrastructure that supports it. Every person who has achieved financial independence, built a business, mastered a skill, or transformed their life has one thing in common. They failed more times than most people even tried. Yet society teaches us to fear failure as if it is a permanent stain instead of a necessary step. This fear creates hesitation. Hesitation creates stagnation. And stagnation becomes the silent thief of potential. Wealthy thinkers understand that failure is simply data. It is feedback that reveals what works, what doesn't, and what needs to be refined. They do not internalize failure as identity. They see it as information. Each setback sharpens judgment. Each mistake builds resilience. Each miscalculation improves strategy. Most importantly, failure removes illusions. Illusions about shortcuts, illusions about talent, illusions about luck. It forces you to confront reality, adjust your approach, and develop the grit required to sustain success once it arrives. People who avoid failure spend their lives repeating safe, predictable patterns that lead nowhere. But people who embrace failure move forward faster because they learn faster. They expect challenges, anticipate setbacks, and understand that discomfort is the price of mastery. What separates the wealthy from the struggling is not how often they fail, but how they respond when they do. Failure becomes destructive only when you attach shame to it, replay it endlessly, or allow it to rewrite your self-worth. But when you view failure as tuition, the cost of wisdom, it becomes one of the most profitable investments you can make. Every failed attempt teaches you something that success never could. Where your blind spots are, how strong your commitment is, and what skills you must sharpen next. Failure exposes the parts of your character that need strengthening and the parts of your plan that need simplifying. It is the refinement process that transforms potential into expertise. Wealthy individuals don't fear looking foolish, making mistakes, or being wrong. They fear stagnation. They would rather fail forward than stay stuck in the illusion of safety. And ironically, the more comfortable you become with failure, the less often you experience the painful kind. You begin failing smaller and smarter. You adapt quickly. You recover easily. You stop quitting when things get hard because you understand that resistance is not a warning sign, it is a welcome sign. It means you are moving into new territory. It means you are growing. And when failure becomes fuel instead of fear, you unlock a version of yourself capable of achieving anything. Because success is not built on perfection, it is built on persistence. Resilience is the psychological infrastructure that holds your financial life together when circumstances try to pull it apart. Money is emotional long before it is mathematical, and the ability to stay grounded during uncertainty is one of the greatest advantages a person can develop. Most people don't fail because they're incapable, they fail because they crumble at the first sign of resistance. They interpret challenges as personal attacks, market fluctuations as doom, and temporary setbacks as permanent truths. But resilient thinkers operate differently. They understand that obstacles are not indicators of inadequacy, they are indicators of progress. Every meaningful goal will stretch you, test you, and expose your weaknesses so they can be strengthened. Resilience is not about being unaffected by stress. It is about learning to move through stress without losing your sense of direction. It means staying steady when emotions surge, making rational decisions when fear rises, and continuing forward when the easier choice is to retreat. Wealthy individuals develop resilience not through comfort, but through repeated exposure to discomfort. They have learned that every challenge carries a lesson, every delay carries a message, and every setback contains the seeds of the next breakthrough. Resilience is not a trait you are born with. It is a discipline you build. The true power of resilience emerges when you realize that your emotional recovery time determines the speed of your success. People who stay stuck in disappointment, fear, or frustration for too long lose momentum, opportunities, and confidence. But resilient individuals bounce back quickly, not because they are stronger, but because they interpret adversity differently. They do not take failure personally. They do not exaggerate bad moments into bad lives. They do not let emotions hijack their decisions. Instead, they pause, reflect, learn, adjust, and continue. They understand that the fastest way to rebuild confidence is to take action, even small action, rather than surrender to stagnation. Financial resilience also means preparing your life for volatility, building emergency funds, diversifying income, strengthening skills, and creating systems that protect you when life becomes unpredictable. But emotional resilience goes deeper. It means refusing to let fear dictate your future. It means trusting your ability to adapt. It means reminding yourself that you have survived every difficult moment so far, and that you will survive the next. When resilience becomes part of your identity, money becomes less frightening, challenges become less personal, and setbacks become stepping stones instead of stumbling blocks. Resilience is not about never falling. It is about rising every time with more clarity and less fear. And once you master this mental game, you become unstoppable, not because life gets easier, but because you become stronger than anything it throws at you. In an age where distractions multiply faster than opportunities, attention has become the most valuable currency in the world. Companies fight for it, platforms monetize it, and algorithms are engineered to hijack it. But for individuals, attention is the foundation of every meaningful financial decision. Your attention determines what you learn, what you act on, what you avoid, what you pursue, and ultimately, what you become. If your attention is scattered, your results will be scattered. If your attention is stolen by constant noise, your progress will be stolen with it. Wealthy thinkers protect their attention the way others protect their money because they understand one simple truth: your life moves in the direction of what you consistently focus on. When your mind is constantly interrupted by notifications, opinions, comparison, marketing, and digital noise, you lose the ability to think deeply, plan clearly, and execute effectively. And without those abilities, even the best opportunities slip through your fingers. Attention is not just a mental resource, it is the gateway to your potential. Everything you desire, wealth, skill, fulfillment, freedom, requires sustained focus. But in a world designed to fragment that focus, your ability to guard your attention becomes a superpower. The reason attention is the new gold is simple. Whatever controls your attention controls your future. If advertisements control it, you become a consumer. If comparison controls it, you become insecure. If fear controls it, you become stagnant. But if intention controls it, you become unstoppable. Wealthy individuals curate their environment with surgical precision. They remove distractions that dilute their energy. They limit exposure to negativity, noise, and time-wasting habits. They create spaces that support clarity, not chaos. And because their attention is protected, their decision-making becomes sharper, their thinking becomes deeper, and their progress becomes faster. Attention is not about focusing harder, it is about eliminating what doesn't deserve your focus. When you cut out distractions, you regain hours, energy, and mental bandwidth that you didn't even realize you were losing. And those regained resources become fuel for creativity, strategy, learning, and growth. The person who controls their attention controls their output. The person who controls their output controls their income. And the person who controls their income controls their future. When you finally treat your attention like gold, you stop wasting it on things that don't matter, and you start investing it in everything that does. Purpose is the compass that transforms effort into direction and income into impact. Without purpose, money becomes an endless chase. No matter how much you earn, it never feels enough, never feels meaningful, never feels like it changes anything. People who lack purpose often mistake activity for progress and accumulation for achievement. They work harder, buy more, upgrade constantly, yet feel an emptiness they cannot explain. That emptiness is the absence of purpose. Purpose gives your actions meaning, your sacrifices direction, and your financial goals a soul. It is the anchor that keeps you focused when life becomes chaotic, and the spark that reignites your motivation when challenges appear. Wealthy thinkers don't chase money for its own sake. They chase money to fuel the life and impact they want to create. They understand that purpose is what sustains ambition long after excitement fades. With purpose, work becomes service, goals become commitments, and success becomes a byproduct of alignment rather than pressure. Purpose turns ordinary effort into extraordinary resilience. It transforms your financial journey from survival into significance. The power of purpose lies not in its size, but in its clarity. You don't need a grand mission to feel fulfilled. You simply need a reason strong enough to guide your choices. Purpose can be rooted in your family, your health, your future, your craft, your desire for freedom, or your wish to create something meaningful. It may begin with wanting to break generational patterns, or wanting to build a life you don't need a vacation from. When you identify your purpose, your spending becomes intentional rather than impulsive. Your goals become inspiring rather than overwhelming. You prioritize investments that support your future rather than distractions that drain your spirit. Purpose sharpens your focus and filters your decisions. It helps you say no to what is convenient, so you can say yes to what is essential. People with purpose experience a deeper form of wealth, the wealth of waking up every morning knowing why they are moving forward. And that inner clarity becomes a magnetic force that attracts opportunities, connections, and breakthroughs. Money without purpose leads to fatigue, but purpose with money leads to freedom. When you align your financial decisions with what truly matters, you stop chasing a richer life and start creating one. The most dangerous point in anyone's financial journey is not when they have nothing. It is when they finally begin to win. Early success whispers comforting lies, that you've made it, that you can relax, that you no longer need to push. learn, or evolve. But wealth is not a finish line. It is a responsibility. When you grow complacent, your habits soften, your standards slip, and the momentum you worked so hard to build begins to fade. This is why the truly wealthy stay hungry. Hunger is not desperation, it is drive. It is the quiet fire that keeps you improving, even when life is comfortable. It is the desire to grow your skills, expand your perspective, and elevate your capacity long after you have enough. Hunger sharpens your decisions, protects your discipline, and keeps your ambition alive. But hunger alone is dangerous without humility. Humility is what keeps you teachable, grounded, aware of your blind spots, and receptive to new knowledge. Humility prevents pride from becoming your downfall. It reminds you that you are not invincible, that markets shift, that circumstances change, that mistakes are always possible. Wealthy thinkers balance hunger and humility like two sides of the same coin. One pushes them forward, the other keeps them stable. Staying hungry and humble means refusing to let success be the reason you stop growing. It means recognizing that the skills that got you to one level may not be the skills that carry you to the next. It means listening more than you speak, learning more than you assume, and improving more than you boast. Humility keeps your ego in check, so your progress can continue. Hunger keeps your energy alive, so your potential can expand. Together, they create a mindset of continuous evolution. The most successful individuals you meet, the ones who sustain wealth for decades, are rarely the loudest in the room. They are the ones quietly observing, quietly learning, quietly expanding their competence. They don't need to prove themselves because their results speak louder than their words. They don't flaunt success because they're too focused on building the next version of themselves. Hunger pushes them toward new possibilities. Humility keeps them open to better strategies. When you embody both qualities, you become unshakable. You no longer measure yourself against others. You measure yourself against the person you were yesterday. You stop chasing validation and start chasing growth. You stop fearing uncertainty and start seeking improvement. And that combination, ambition without arrogance, consistency without complacency, is what allows you not only to achieve wealth, but to sustain it gracefully. Staying hungry keeps you rising. Staying humble keeps you from falling. Most people spend their lives chasing the idea of being rich without ever understanding what it actually means. Rich is loud. Rich is visible. Rich is performative. It looks like designer clothes, shiny cars, luxury vacations, and upgraded everything. But rich is often fragile, built on high expenses, loans, image-based spending, and the constant need to prove success instead of quietly living it. Wealth, on the other hand, is silent. Wealth is calm. Wealth is freedom. It looks like time flexibility, unshakable financial security, low stress, and the ability to make choices without fear. While the rich chase status, the wealthy chase autonomy. While the rich want to appear successful, the wealthy want to feel peaceful. And while the rich rely on active income that stops when they stop working, the wealthy build systems, assets, and habits that make their money grow even in their sleep. The world glamorizes being rich because it is easy to display, but wealth hides beneath the surface, quiet, disciplined, boring to outsiders, yet deeply powerful to the person who lives it. Wealth is not something you show, it is something you experience. The fundamental difference between rich and wealthy lies in what each group values. Rich people value consumption. Wealthy people value control. Rich people buy liabilities. Wealthy people buy freedom. Rich people upgrade their lifestyle when income rises. Wealthy people upgrade their stability. Rich people chase the applause of others. Wealthy people chase the approval of their future selves. This difference is why many who look rich are one paycheck, one emergency, or one bad decision away from collapse, while those who quietly build wealth can weather storms without panic. Wealthy thinkers design their life around margin, not excess. They prioritize savings, investments, time freedom, health, and meaningful experiences rather than new items that fade quickly. They understand that wealth is built in the background through habits, patience, consistency, and clarity. The rich make money to spend, the wealthy make money to sustain. And here lies the life-changing truth. Becoming rich is a moment, but becoming wealthy is a mindset. It doesn't require high income. It requires high intention. It doesn't demand showing off. It demands showing up for your goals daily. When you stop trying to look wealthy and start trying to become wealthy, your decisions transform. Your priorities shift. Your stress dissolves. You begin building a life that is not just impressive, but unshakable. Because rich is temporary, but wealth is forever. Your subconscious mind is the silent architect of your financial life. It influences the opportunities you notice, the risks you avoid, the goals you pursue, and the ceilings you unconsciously accept. Most people believe they make financial decisions consciously, but science shows that up to 95% of human behavior is governed by the subconscious patterns formed from childhood, beliefs absorbed from family, fears inherited from society, and memories shaped by past experiences. If you grew up hearing that money is scarce, that wanting more is selfish, that wealth is for other people, or that financial success requires luck, those beliefs still operate inside you, quietly directing your choices. That is why many people sabotage themselves, even when they want to improve. One part of them dreams big, while another part fears becoming someone they were never taught to be. Reprogramming the subconscious is not about blind positivity. It is about removing mental viruses that limit your potential. Abundance begins when you stop repeating the emotional code you inherited and start writing your own. When you identify your limiting beliefs, fear of failure, fear of judgment, fear of responsibility, fear of success itself, you begin taking back control of your final. Reprogramming your subconscious requires repetition, environment, and emotional engagement. You cannot think your way into abundance, you must train your mind into it. Wealthy thinkers repeat empowering beliefs until their brain accepts them as truth. They surround themselves with environments that normalize success, books, mentors, conversations, rooms that elevate their ambition instead of shrinking it. They visualize the life they want, not as fantasy, but as rehearsal, teaching their brain to feel safe in the future they're building. They replace limiting language, like "I can't afford it," with empowering questions like "How can I afford it?" Because language is the gateway to belief, and belief shapes behavior. The subconscious responds to emotion more than logic. So every time you imagine a better future with feeling, you reinforce the neural pathways that make that future possible. And as your belief shifts, your actions shift automatically. You begin making decisions from confidence rather than fear, from expansion rather than scarcity, from purpose rather than survival. Reprogramming your subconscious for abundance is not a one-time epiphany, it is a daily discipline. But over time, the transformation becomes undeniable. You stop resisting opportunities and start attracting them. You stop shrinking yourself and start stepping into your potential. You stop living from your past and start living from your vision. When the subconscious changes, everything changes. Because abundance is not something you chase, it is a mindset you embody. There comes a moment at the end of every journey where you realize the treasure you were searching for was never just money. It was the transformation of who you became along the way. This book was never about teaching you how to spend money better. It was about helping you understand yours better. Money was money amply. So build a self-worth amplifying. Build habits that stabilize you. Build dreams that stretch you. Build relationships that elevate you. Build a mindset that protects you. Build a life that feels rich even before the money comes, and the money will follow. Wealth is not created in the future. It is created in the present moment through the way you think, choose, spend, and grow today. You are no longer the person who started this book. You are more aware, more intentional, more prepared, and more powerful than you realize. The life you want is not waiting for permission. It is waiting for alignment. The door is unlocked. The path is open. Now you must walk it. Not with urgency, but with purpose. Not with fear, but with clarity. Not with doubt, but with the quiet confidence of someone who finally understands that wealth was never beyond reach. It was always within you. So step forward with a new standard. Live with a new identity. Make decisions as the person your future demands. And carry this truth with you wherever you go. The richest life is the one you build intentionally. And from this moment on, that life belongs to you.